It's my song! Let's sing it! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Come on! It's gonna be fucking awesome! You know the words! It's gonna be fucking awesome! That's it! Sing! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Yeah!
Good morning, everybody! It's me, the coolest geek alive! Welcome to another fabulous episode of our show. It's gonna be a lively one today because we're taking a deep dive into the greatest comic books ever that you can read to get yourself into a lifelong devotion to the hobby. And a deep dive into the history of my career in comics and the short-lived company that I created, I Don't Know Shit About Comics, as a service to the comic book non-reader, people who were going to conventions, who were interested in comics, but didn't know how to approach the hobby. They weren't even sure how to read a comic. I wanted to answer all those people's questions so that we could get more people reading. There's been tons of movies and tons of TV shows. There have not been tons of new readers. In fact, there's a lot of arguments that say viewership has gone down in mainstream American comics, and most of that energy has moved over to manga and anime, and that it's a different thing than, the industry is healthy. No, the traditional industry of American comics is not particularly healthy, not anymore. And this is one of the reasons why we need to translate better these customers from TV and film into comics and show people why comics are so great. So that's what today's episode is dedicated to. And by virtue of that, we're going to answer all your questions about reading comics if you're a newbie, and give you 100 or so recommendations of great places to start for specific characters or just great places to start in reading comics in general. So hang on to your hats and bear with me, because this episode is going to rock. If you really take this seriously, I am about to introduce you to a lifelong love of comic books, something I've only ever done for my brother before you. And I think we might be going into overtime. As you, if you've listened to this show before, may know, I write comic books. I love working on comic books. Comic books are my favorite medium. I really believe that it's the highest form of entertainment known to man. It gets no respect, but you have these artists who are really kind of forced by the nature of the industry, the nature of the periodical to evolve. The art styles, there are some artists working today, like the Arthur Adams of the world, or Dave Johnson, or Jason Pearson. Well, rest in peace on Jason. But people who just create a consistent world for you to fall into when you read their books. And I just think there's nothing else like it. I've said before, one of the other big things is in a book, it's a real page turner, but you still have to, in order to get excited, you have to speed whatever speed you can do with the book while reading. In comics, there's this page turn with a picture being worth 1,000 words. So when you can turn the page and be really shocked in an instance, the same way you can in a movie where it's not interactive, you don't turn the page, somebody's editing it for you. So a real subtle difference here of you turning the page and then getting shocked with the image. But I believe that combination, it's really striking and in balance, and it allows you to go into the minds of these artists who create just beautiful worlds of all variety. There's just so many types of artists and so many types of styles. It's so easy to love comic books. I mean, really, when I only ever wanted to be smart. And when comic books were presented to me, I was like, that seems like a stupid kiddie thing. And I didn't want to be involved in it, even though I liked the idea of superheroes and I liked the idea of people being good people. But I just wasn't really willing to give it a chance. But I'm a huge comedy guy, and I ended up getting drawn into reading The Savage Dragon because it was a really funny book, and I sort of accidentally read an entire issue of The Savage Dragon because it had a character in it that I really liked visually, Bedrock, and Savage Dragon just kicked his ass and insulted the hell out of him the whole book, and I thought it was the funniest freaking thing I'd ever read in my life. It was my favorite character he was insulting, and I was just like, you're right, he is stupid. But I started comics with laughter in mind, and oh boy, is there a lot of laughter to be had in comic book reading. Oof, there is some really funny shit, especially if you like shocking things. Like if you're drawn to horror because you like the shock, there's some real merging of that genre. You know, you see it in a comic book like Boys. You know, it's like where the science fiction is brutal. Every what do you call it? Genre. Every genre of this world is represented in comic books, and I made this thing, this project. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know shit about comics, and it was like meant to be an organization to help people get into comic books. And I'm just gonna kind of maybe let the pitch thing, you know, speak for itself. But I'll tell you that my motivations came from the fact that being a writer, and I work with all these artists, we go to conventions and the writer basically can sell their book. My buddy Aaron Sparrow has learned to draw a picture of Darkwing Duck because, you know, that way he gets to be like the artists who all can draw pictures, and people do commissions and people do sketches. I mean, Eric Larson has done sketches for me at multiple comic conventions. Like I said, Savage Dragon was the beginning of how I got into books. But when I finally, I followed Deadpool into that comedy thing, and then into what do you call it? Marvel Comics, the Marvel Knights, and then started going back to read all these huge DC things years later. And there are just striking storytellers and beautifully told, interesting mysteries and comedies and just everything that you can imagine in the world of literature. It exists in Marvel and DC Comics. Really, somewhere there's some good bit of that thing, but there are things that are fleeting in large supply, and those things exist in droves other places. Like, if you like soap operas, there's some great X-Men comics that you can read that have some of those aspects of it that are really enjoyable, and it's high level and interesting in its own way. But then there's also Archie comics, and there's just a counter for everything. There are great independent comics, artists who don't think that they're really good enough to do superheroes, and they just draw some crime book and something that's great. One of my favorite books of all time is a book by Brian Michael Bendis and my buddy Mark Andreyko called Torso. It's so good. It's so good. It's based on the real first serial killer in America, and it's told in the style of Seven. And I really think that that as a genre of told in the style of Seven, in a little bit of that brutal suspense, really horrifying real world, that's it's a cool genre. It is. I think that's genre defying, and and there have been things that have been made like that are awesome. That's one of the cool things about comic books. Comic books sort of represent the thirst that can't be quenched. The thirst that can't be quenched in the world. Independent comic books and things that sell and rise to the top or whatever, they rise to the top because there's a thirst that can't be quenched from the artist, and it connects with a thirst that can't be quenched from the readers. And I really feel like to some degree it's the last grassroots creativity, because everything is just so invaded by money. And we are all people who chose to be in the street. I'm not a lavish guy. I spend my money on toys. That's it. That's my vice. Toys and comics, and, things for my family. Everything else is, of course, the foundational stuff. But if I have extra money, I'm spending it in small quantities here, there, not on anything that I'm trying to impress people with. I'm looking for good stories. I'm looking for beautiful art. I love and appreciate artists. That's what somebody like me, and I'm sure like you, is looking for. They say you got to know your audience. I feel like everybody's just been so reluctant, the same way I was reluctant to get into comics, to give them a try. These executives and everybody, we're adults. Oh, I don't read comic books. But they don't realize that it's about the big picture. And big picture wise, no matter if you don't like the style of the storytelling of maybe old school comics, but I think you'd be surprised of things even written, in the 70s, like from the 70s up, there's some really strong material coming out of these companies. And foundationally, the ideas were very strong. And the exaggerated nature of the characters give rise to situations that are very interesting and compelling. In general, they skip over these things when you're seeing these movies, and you just get these like big stories. It's really about small and about the possibility. And the possibility gets established and expanded on from the beginning. Here's the Spider-Man guy. Here's a situation that he's come up against. Here's another situation, another situation, another situation. It's over time that there were so many possibilities of who Spider-Man might come up against and how many of them we loved, and the possibility that a new one that we might love might come along, that it becomes the thing that we care about. That's why Batman has never really been done justice on the big screen, because it's reading the comics where all of these pieces are on the table. In the very beginning of the story, Batman sneaks into Arkham Asylum and he passes this lunatic. And you can kind of figure out from his name what the possibilities of his damage might be. And these are lunatics who are definitely hurting people, if not killing people. And there's one after another, after another, after another. Two-Face, the Mad Hatter, the Riddler, Calendar Man. And then you come to the Joker at the end of the hallway. This creates this atmosphere of what's possible in his world. And when there's a mystery, you're like, oh, maybe it's this villain, or maybe it's that villain, or maybe it's essentially like playing Clue, where you're sitting around going like, I know who this could be. And the greatest writers, they just use the atmosphere to great effect. That's why sometimes when professional writers at Marvel or DC go independent, they don't do a great job always of like setting up their own universe and their own universe rules, because they're used to working on things where that's all established. So like you have to create an atmosphere. And when you create space for people's thoughts, then you don't really have to go very far in your storytelling. Like the greatest thing that Marvel could have done was slow down with Avengers Endgame. Slow down and deepen everything that they had done. Start deepening everything in meaningful ways. Keep all those pieces on the board. Have Iron Man somehow survive. Have rescue save him. Have them keep him alive on life support, whatever it is. Do the thing that you did to Hulk with him. It's just so wasteful to have him die. There are other ideas than just ending a story that we were very engaged in and ending Captain America at the same time and bringing all these things to a close. They could have gotten so much mileage out of these things. Anyway, I've got some stuff written here about I don't know shit about comics. The I Don't Know Shit About Comics mission statement. It is our goal to educate the uninitiated and finally grow the stagnant fan base of the single greatest entertainment medium ever created, comic books. We have a huge opportunity right now, more than ever, to take the millions of fans of the films and television shows based off of our comics and turn them into comics readers. I Don't Know Shit About Comics is essentially a traveling comics information booth designed to educate the interested and empower the fanatic by providing simple testing of the rudimentary knowledge needed to read comic books, or rather, dispelling all of the erroneous beliefs through a test that dismisses them. Made up of I Don't Know Shit About Comics volunteers, which included myself and Aaron Sparrow. I don't know if anybody else ever did it with us. I think I had some friends helping us. Maybe my ex-wife Patty was helping us at the time at New York ones or whatever. We only did a few conventions. It's really funny to go back and read this because like I only just like read through it and I was crappy with reading it, so I decided to read it again. But it's really interesting to see what I wrote, and I appreciate it. I just realized I'm like I wasn't giving it the proper bravado it needed, so now I am. I'm giving it the proper thing. Where was I? There are no dumb questions about comics. Okay, well, that's true. In order to do that, we need to re-educate the mainstream about comics. We need to de-emphasize what is difficult and focus on what is simple. My first comic book was The Thing number 34, and I had no idea what was going on, but I loved it. It doesn't matter where you begin, only that you begin. And the sooner, the better. You know what it's called when you're reading a book and you're not exactly sure what is going on? Intrigue. Reading comics doesn't have to be a huge production. Just pick one up and read it. You know that comic books aren't viewed as a form of entertainment by the mainstream. We're like toys. Comics have been so good for so long, and thanks to the dominance of comics-based films and television shows in popular culture, we are seeing a renewed interest in our industry as a whole. Yet we seem unable to form a plan of action to get these hopeful new readers. But we are largely leaving new readers to fend for themselves in terms of figuring out how to read comics. I guess I hadn't formulated that sentence. It's broken up. But I said we have an opportunity to reach new people thanks to the growth of our presence in other mass media. Despite the hopeful message of the superhero comics this industry was built on, the image of the comic book fan is unwelcoming. So I didn't even get to like finish this elevator pitch to like sponsors and stuff because I was just doing it. And I thought it would be cool if like we could get like some sponsors and give out candy and give out drinks and stuff and whatever, and just be like there as a service to the industry. And I could promote whatever comic books I was working on at the time. And at the time that I made it, I was working for Marvel and DC and eventually Disney and Pixar and the Muppets. Now I've been doing independent stuff because I got very frustrated with the industry, as don't we all in the industry. But don't be afraid to buy a comic. I promise you, if you're somebody who likes, my entertainment stuff and you're listening to me talk about comics right now really passionately, like, dude, we need readers. There's so much to appreciate. There's just so many brilliant creators, so many brilliant artists, especially if you're an artist. If you appreciate art, just read some comics, man, or woman. Go to the Barnes and Noble or whatever, and you flip through some. I recommend doing the thing where you like watching TV shows where there's a new episode every week, and you're like, oh, you're so excited. That's comics. It's monthly. There's a new book every month, and when you get a great one going, it's just the best. It's the best. And sometimes there'll be multiple going at once. And every week you'll get this like special gift from the artistic gods of something wonderful that you really enjoy. And lots of people have found their way to various fantasy things and whatnot. But I'm going to try to direct you right now to a variety of things, where to start for all sorts of characters that you might know. But first, let's just, I don't know shit, FAQ. Question, who are comics created for? A, everyone, except blind people, unfortunately. I'm a dick. Question, what is the difference between a graphic novel and a comic book? A, nothing. Comics and graphic novels are essentially the same thing. In fact, the majority of graphic novels are simply collected editions of individual comics. Yeah. Question, when are new comics released? A, every Wednesday. Most titles maintain a monthly release schedule. Question, where can you buy comics? Answer, at comic book stores, bookstores, and digital download online. To find a comic shop near you, visit comicshoplocator.com or just call 1-888-COMIC-BOOK. What type of comics genres are available to read? Answer is, just like books, TV, and film, comic books come in every genre. Action, comedy, drama, family, fantasy, sci-fi, superhero, and everything in between are strongly represented in the comics medium. Question, why read the comic when I can wait for the TV or film adaptation? Answer, there are many reasons. Here are a few. 1, just like films adapted from books, the comics are usually better than their moving picture counterparts. 2, comics can do things other entertainment mediums cannot. What? Read some comics and you will quickly find out. 3, films and television are limited by budget. Comics are only limited by imagination. Question, how do you read a comic? A, just like a book, top to bottom, left to right. If you can read a novel, you can read a comic through reading manga. Though reading manga, Japanese comics, is almost exactly the opposite. Starting from the back of the book, you would read top to bottom, right to left. Question, where do I start? Answer, number one, a graphic novel might be a good place to start, but it really doesn't matter. Just pick up a book, flip through it, and if you like the art, start reading. I don't know shit about comics creator Jesse Snider's first comic was The Thing number 34. He didn't know anything about comics prior to that issue and has been reading comics ever since. It's true. There's actually some real truth that I was a very loose reader. It was the fight between Bedrock and Savage Dragon in the Savage Dragon issue that really got me into comic books, and I love Eric Larson forever for doing that for me, for bringing me into this place. So let's see, what do we got here? We got the I don't know shit about comics starting points, and might let myself go late on this show. It's a cool episode, and might as well have it. It's a cool thing that you can save, and you can come back to this at other points. But these are some I don't know shit about comics starting points for things that you might be interested in comics. The Amazing Spider-Man. If you're interested in getting into some of the great Amazing Spider-Man, try Amazing Spider-Man Brand New Day Volume 1 by Dan Slott, Mark Guggenheim, Steve McNiven, and Salvador LaRocca, to name a few. There's a whole bunch of people that worked on those issues. Eventually Joe Kelly, who's one of my favorite writers, he gets involved in that stuff. The art is super high level. They put these things out like weekly or like bi-weekly. I forget exactly what the schedule was. It was a fast schedule, and it features so many of your favorite characters just doubled down, reinterpreted, but in like just without, the reinterpretation done right is like it's everything that it was before, but a little bit extra version of itself. And they did a great job at really extra versioning itself. So many of these Spider-Man villains. This whole arc and it goes on for a while. So like I tried with these lists to give you guys things that would take you on a journey. So if you really want to go on a journey and have a really long story that you could follow, a great one that'll go on forever. I should have wrote on all these like how many issues you'll get of that if you want to just like start there and do it. But you can find that run, The Amazing Spider-Man Brand New Day Volume 1. Okay, how about the Avengers? You like New Avengers? Try New Avengers Breakout. It's just got the right modern storytelling sensibilities. It also has Spider-Man and Wolverine in it. It's got Captain America and Iron Man, and it's generally run in the right tradition with an air of tradition to the Avengers franchise, but it breaks new ground and is exciting and fun and gives you a look at a lot of villains and a lot of corners of the Marvel universe. I think it's just really effective in some of the gimmicky things that it does of, for the first time ever, putting Spider-Man and putting Wolverine on this team together, adding them to the Avengers. And there's a lot more really cool characters who are utilized in the book. And some of them, I don't always love the way they're utilized. I don't really love what they've ultimately done with the Sentry, for one, who was a character I really adored, who's in the book. But it's still really good. It's still Brian Michael Bendis being at the height of him being generally loved by the audience and doing some really cool things with the medium. David Finch's art is awesome, and there's the story arcs that come out of this. It goes into a story arc called Dark Reign that is super, super fun. And so if you dig into this storyline, it'll put you into a lot of comics really fast. And it'll get you into a lot of other crossover comics really fast at a place and time where the books were really good. If you go back and you read those that Sentry miniseries, it's really good. The first one is really, really good. And then you see Paul Jenkins' name and Jay Lee, and you'll go, oh, maybe I should also read the Inhumans that they did. Yeah, you definitely should. Go back and read that. So like, this is how you'll fall into the pit of comic books, because you'll see, oh my God, this was wonderful. And once you find something that was wonderful, you go, surely they've done more work than just this. And that's the thing about comics, is there are people who have been working for a long time where if you find somebody that you love, you could just do this deep dive into their work, and you can just keep finding thing after thing after thing. And that's it. Like, that's the blessing of, like, as soon as you get one whose voice you like, and you're in like Flynn. All right, moving on to Captain America. You want to try some Captain America? Begin with Captain America Volume 1, Winter Soldier, Book 1 by Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting. That book is incredible. It's the one that basically the Winter Soldier storyline in the films is based on, but it's so much better in the comics than it is in the films. You'll get a lot of storylines out of that, a lot of graphic novels, and graphic novels are generally collections of somewhere between 4 and like 10 Sometimes it'll be more if it's like a big collection, an omnibus or something like that. But it's a lot of books is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, if you'd like to dig into a great TV show and you're like, oh man, there's 7 seasons of this. Yes, please let it never end. Oh no, I'm on the 7th season and it's gotta be over. Then comics are the place for you. The Dark Knight, Mr. Batman. Try The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And that'll get you into the basics of the Batman mythology. It'll show you what kind of options are there, what diversity of creativity is there in some of the Batman stuff that's been released over time. And the Batman mythology is strong in the comic books. These things stand the test of time. Go read some of these classic stories and get an appetite for things, and then jump in to whatever is going on right now. Everybody would be into comic books the same way I believe myself, or if you're out there and you're listening and you've read some of these things, you know what I'm talking about. It's really high level fiction that's going on. We just have to believe this one little bend in, that these things are possible, so that we can see and imagine something that's really off the chain and creates all of these scenarios that just aren't possible in normal fiction, where generally the same things are created over and over and over and over again, situations, because there's only so many possibilities. Well, there's just a lot of possibilities in high-level fantasy and science fiction and superhero comics in particular. So moving on, Arrow, if you're a fan. Oh, and by the way, the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, they are 2 of my favorite creators of all time. They've written tons of things. If you just read that Batman Long Halloween and you like it too, you can get into them. Just get into Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale as a writing and artist partnership. They work wonderful together. They've made these wonderful thing after wonderful thing, and they've made some things for Marvel. They've made some things for DC. There's a bunch more Batman things from them that are really fun. And there's actually one story from Tim Sale that's amazing, that's collected in a Batman Legends of the Dark Knight volume. That is, I don't know what volume is. I think it's called Blades. It's the first thing that Tim Sale had ever done at DC, I guess, with another writer. But it is just a beautiful story. I love that one. Made me fall in love with Tim Sale's work. He's so great. He's a great creator to follow. I don't know if he does other things besides that. I've always been meaning to follow him further, and I should find him somewhere because he's just one of my favorites. Anyway, Arrow. If you're into Green Arrow. Oh, this is funny. This is really funny. I didn't realize that the way I wrote this was, if you liked this thing, you might like this thing. So I said specifically, if you liked The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. And, it was more modern takes on some things. Something that I would recommend if you like the Sam Raimi thing, go read Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt. There's a graphic novel of Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt. The artist's name was on the tip of my tongue. But beautiful art, beautiful story. Kicks ass, really worth reading. And another one of those books that surprised me. And so often comic books do, just because the writers don't know that they're just comic books. So when good writers show up, just comic books can do so much. It's really incredible. So it says, if you liked Arrow, try Green Arrow Quiver by Kevin Smith, Phil Hester, and Andy Parks. Love that one. Don't remember it super well off the top of my head. I seem to remember there was a monster and some little kid or whatever. And but I really liked it, and I like the stories that came out of this storyline. I think there's a writer who I liked who took over the story arc, and he continued with the characters, and they did some really good things. I followed this arc for a very long time. I really enjoyed Phil Hester in particular as an artist on Green Arrow. I don't know, I just liked it. He's got an abstract kind of style, but it was really cool. And whenever I think of Green Arrow, I see his style. And Kevin Smith's story was great. It was really cool. He introduced his character Onomatopoeia, who's occasionally shown up at different points in time, and it was really well done. I think it was 12 issues, and then they brought in some other people to do some cool things. And I think this might have been connected to Brad Meltzer's run of some stuff. Generally speaking, all of these things that I'm setting you up here and offering to you, to recommend, they're things that lead into a lot more really great stuff that you'll easily be able to find and will be sort of alluded to in one way or another. Clearly, the story goes on, and so I'm really setting you up for success here if any of these things do interest you on any level. So moving on, we got, if you really like Green Lantern, like I was doing my show Toys, which is now every Thursday, which is 4/7 Pacific, 4 Eastern, but only on YouTube, where me and my toy buddies, including Aaron Sparrow, talk about how we know so much about the industry by virtue of what is really successful. We know what's popular because we're toy people, because we buy things. And one of my toy buddies said, Green Lantern, he actually really liked it. He was defending the film. He was saying there was a lot of problems with it, but he was just saying he really liked it on some levels, aspects of the idea about it. And if you did like it, like him, you could try much better, I think, much better, Green Lantern Rebirth by Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver. It's fucking incredible. It leads to so many amazing storylines. It's just beautifully drawn, beautifully written. He fixed sort of a lot of problems that were sort of inherent with where the story had been left of Hal Jordan and brings him back to life. And there's a ton of great stories that come after this. And like I can't tell you I can't tell you how excited I am for you that you get to go and read Green Lantern Rebirth. I've been waiting for myself to start going back and rereading some of these books that I know are so fucking good when I finally feel like I don't remember them anymore. But I still remember. And oh man, Green Lantern Rebirth. Oof. It's great, and everything that comes after it is great. The regular Green Lantern book takes a little bit to get started, but still good and solid. Jeff Johns is a brilliant writer, and the artists that are being worked with there, Carlos Pacheco and other people, are great. And Ethan Van Sciver comes back eventually for various things, but there's also a Green Lantern Corp book that comes out after this at that time. And this Green Lantern Corps book and these books together equal just like a great place to start reading and getting into the Green Lanterns. You get just so many great characters, and it goes to great places. I won't spoil anything for you from here. Anyway, if you liked Hellboy, try Hellboy Volume 1, Seed of Destruction by John Byrne and Mike Mignola. I'm just going to say go read that. Just go read it. If you liked Hellboy, go. It's just like that stuff. It's done. It's just all very interesting. Guillermo del Toro's style is interesting in similar ways to Mike Mignola's style. He has different helpers at different points in time, but eventually he, takes over plotting most of the stuff. If you get into it, there's like so much to read in connection with it. He's been working with other artists that I really like. I do Duncan Fegredo, I think is one of them, who's really brilliant. Somebody that I like who was at Marvel, and then eventually I saw him working with Mike. Incredible Hulk. If you like the Incredible Hulk, and the freaking Incredible Hulk, I hated that movie. Try the Incredible Hulk, Planet Hulk by Greg Pak, Carlos Pagualavan, Aaron Lopresti, and Juan Santa Cruz. Great book, great place to start. Really does some fun stuff with the character, and it's just a good place to dig in. And there's tons of things to dig into after that, but that's just a good place to begin. And generally speaking, I trust that these books are going to have advertisements for other graphic novels that they recommend. So you can try some other things after that. You can see what suits your fancy. Or by then, maybe you're going to a comic book store and you can say, hey, what else do people really like? What else do you think will keep me coming back for some books? Until you find out what your taste is and you see what writers you want to follow, what artists you want to follow. I follow writers. There's very few artists who I love so much that I read anything that they do. But there are some. Writers can put out a lot of books. And that's why I say it's such a rewarding thing reading comic books, because when you find a writer you like, that's the jackpot. There's just like so much to go find. If you find more Jeff Johns stuff. And I mean, the things that get promoted by him are not the greatest ones. Read The Flash. I mean, we'll probably get to some of that stuff in a little bit in my list here. Let's see. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Iron Man. If you liked Iron Man, try Iron Man Extremist by Warren Ellis and Andy Granoff. There's some good stuff that comes after that. It's a good place to start. There's some really cool stuff. The Extremist thing, like that name you'll recognize from the films, they really did Extremist a disservice, I think, in terms of what they did with that film. And it was worth doing it more accurately. Yeah, I wish they would have adapted this better. That book's a great one to start. You'll be recommended plenty of things after it. Kick-Ass. If you like the Kick-Ass film, try the Kick-Ass comic book. It's great. It's different in some significant ways, and it'll introduce you to the art of John Romita Jr. and the writing of Frank Millar. He's got a really great style about him because everything he does is pretty idea driven. I see that he's always trying to find really interesting scenarios to put people in, put the characters in, to put the story in, to twist it in different ways. And he's really interesting. He's doing a big crossover with all of his comics right now, which means it'll be collected into a graphic novel a bunch of months from now. So you could go dive into some different Mark Millar books, because he's got a lot of variety within the things that he's offered, even though they're all like kind of badass, action-y cool kind of things, but a lot of different things that he's done. And you can get into this big crossover that he's doing, I think called The Big Game or Big Game, which I want to catch up on the books too, because I didn't follow him on his independent ride. I kind of missed a bunch of different things, so I was a little bit behind on it, even though I do like a lot of his work, and I've read a lot of his work, but I don't feel like I've read enough to enjoy Big Game. So I got to go back and read all these things that I missed so that I can enjoy all the characters that show up, because I like when it's all tied together. I think we're all one, and I like to live in a universe where it's all tied together. Continuing, if you like that movie The Losers, I don't know if you remember that, it was a little bit more recent at the time, but it was like action adventure kind of movie. Try The Losers Book 1 by Andy Diggle and Jacques. This says Scott Pilgrim versus the World. You should of course try Scott Pilgrim Volume 1. Scott Pilgrim Precious Little Life by Brian Lee O'Malley. Sin City. Try Sin City Volume 1. The Hard Goodbye by Frank Miller. I'm not going to keep saying these are all adapted from the work, but the comics are all a little different in their own way. If you like Superman, try Superman Secret Origin by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Really great place to start. It's just a beautiful story of Superman. It shows you the Superman that I love, that people love. Again, there's Jeff Johns. Teen Titans Go. Then read Teen Titans Volume 1, A Kid's Game by Jeff Johns, Mike McCone, and Tom Grummett. Great one. You like Thor? Try Thor Volume 1 by J. Michael Strigninsky and Olivier Coipel, I think. Strigninsky, of course, is the creator of Babylon 5, which is a really cool, well-written show. He's written some great books. He's another guy that you can find who's done some comic book work, and his comics are awesome. He's done some really good stuff. He did a book called Midnight Nation that was pretty cool, like a horror, supernatural thing. And he did another book called Rising Stars, which really popularized him as a comic book writer. It was very cool. Rising Stars was, I don't know why they haven't adapted it into anything. Rising Stars is a good one to recommend, like Rising Stars by J. Michael Straczynski. Really good one. It was just about these certain group of people who all got superpowers. And I think that when they killed each other, they got more powerful. I don't know if it was like a one situation kind of thing, but the power was being focused into all these individuals, and they all had different power, and then somebody was going around trying to kill them. But it was really good. It was murder. It was told as like a mystery. It's all about how the stories are told, man. The comic book stories are told so damn well. And the idiots who produce these films, I don't understand how these things get broken. Well, I do understand how these things get broken. It's just like people don't know. They've never been introduced to it being done in such a high level. And it gets done here because for so long, people weren't really looking at comic books, and there were just great things happening all the time. All right, so The Walking Dead, of course, you want to get Robert Kirkman, Tony Moore, Charlie Adler, and Cliff Rathbun's The Walking Dead Book 1. And the comic is so much better than the show. The show's cool. I've watched a couple seasons of it. It's great, but they jump off the rails with a number of things. They did some good things with Shane, and there's some great things with the Norman Reedus character, but I promise you, it's far superior. A really, really well done book. And Robert Kirkman as well. The Invincible comic book. People like the animation. My son's been loving the animation. It's great. The freaking comic it's rad, man. It's rad. Invincible was a book that I was looking forward to every month as I was reading. And I had to catch up with the books and then was reading it so I could read it. And really, really great one. Okay. X-Men. If you really like the X-Men movies, you got to try Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon and John Cassidy. Great place to start. There's just so many other books out there that you could go and enjoy, but very modern, beautifully drawn, beautifully written. Somebody that you already like, the director of the Avengers, creative person who you trust. But this will open up a lot of doors for you for more from here with the X-Men. There's plenty of great stories, but I think that's a great one for new readers. All right, we got 10 comic book gems here. My 10 comic book gems are Batman Arkham Asylum. Really, really awesome. Written by Grant Morrison. Drawn by McKenna. Dave McKenna? Some McKenna. It's like painted. It's super cool. It's just like Batman's like walking around Arkham Asylum, and it's just like this horror house, and every cell for all of these characters are just these gnarly interpretations of Killer Croc and Two-Face, and just everybody in the book of Batman is in Arkham Asylum in some cool way. You'll wish there were more. Mr. Freeze, and all of them depicted so freaking cool. Oh, I have it written here. It's Dave McKean. Yeah, he's freaking awesome. Anyway, Grant Morrison and Dave McKean, Batman Arkham Asylum. Awesome. The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Klaus Janson and Lynn Varley. Awesome. The book that the Batman vs. Superman movie is kind of loosely based on. Much better as a dystopian future. It's a far future where Batman and Superman end up having this problem because Superman's become a tool of the government, as so many of us do over time. And it's awesome. It's really, really great. It holds up. People always like to debate of whether The Watchmen or The Dark Knight Returns are the greatest comics of all the time. The Watchmen's a little stuffy for me, honestly. I like things a little bit less stuffy. I like a good story, well told. And sometimes some of these great writers, I think they get in their own way a little bit. And there are these better journeyman writers who just like lean into these characters and lean into these stories and just do such a service to the characters and make me love the characters that much more. So, and Frank Miller is somebody who's done great service to Batman, done great service to so many different, so many different characters and the medium in general. Next up, we've got Kingdom Come by Alex Ross and Mark Waid. It's fully painted. Great place to start. Mark Waid is one of the great writers of comics. Alex Ross is one of the great artists of comics. I'm sure you've seen some of his beautiful paintings. They just look real. Amazing stuff. I love Alex Ross. Coming up next, also Alex Ross, we've got Marvels by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross. Kurt, I enjoy Kurt's work quite a bit, and with Alex Ross' team here is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Next up is one of my favorites, Mouse, The Complete Mouse. This is it's by Art Spiegelman. It won the Nobel Prize. This is one of the things I point to, that comic books, we win Nobel Prizes. That's what we do. This is it's a cartoon where these mice are being depicted as the Jews and tigers are being depicted as the Germans, and there's all these different animals. The Polish people are pigs, etc. And it tells a story of the creator's grandfather and his experience in World War II. Nothing that I have ever digested about World War II has ever taught me more about World War II than this single graphic novel. This story here, that's based on his grandfather's story, it just explains it all. It tells you everything that you need to know about how the people got beaten, like what happened. I think I've watched every movie on World War II that they've ever made and tons of documentaries. Nothing taught me more about how it all happened than reading this comic. And it's so interesting. And it's so funny because it's a story told by mice and tigers and shit. And it's great. That, I think, is probably the greatest comic book of all time. It is just so well done. I mean, just as a singular thing that you can get through, Mouse, it's really the best. Now, Spider-Man: Kraven's Last Hunt by J.M. DeMantis and Mike Zeck. I already mentioned earlier. Mike Zeck is the artist. He's a great freaking artist. And J.M. DeMantis is a great writer. Superman for All Seasons is a Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale book. It's I told you Batman: A Long Halloween. I was talking about Superman and Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This is just another one that's great. I talked about Torso by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Andreyko. It's amazing. We talked about Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. It's really great. It's a little bit of a hard thing. If you're a new reader, if you struggle with books, don't start with Watchmen. It's a bit it's a bit much. If you're somebody who doesn't generally read, but you want to, there are plenty of books here that you could read that are not slogs and difficult to get through. Spider-Man: Kraven's Last Hunt is a relatively brisk read. Superman for All Seasons is a brisk read, but great. These things are great. We Three, which is next on the list, written by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. Oh my God, incredible. Get you into Frank Quitely. He's an amazing artist to follow. He's done some X-Men, great. Grant Morrison, he's done some X-Men. He's done lots and lots of wonderful work. Grant Morrison's one of my favorite writers in comics. All right, so that's 10 comic book gems, and we are approaching an hour on a Saturday episode, which is usually shorter episodes, but I guess we're just going to call this the comic book special, okay? 10 killer first volumes. Some things that, like I said, can start you off on a long journey of discovery. I won't give too much away on these books, but I recommend these. 100 Bullets, Volume 1, First Shot, Last Call, published by DC's Vertigo label, written by Brian Azzarello and art by Edward Rizzo. Rizzo's work is great. Azzarello's a really great writer, and the basic premise of this story is just super awesome. What would you do if somebody showed up at your house and gave you 100 untraceable bullets and handgun and clear evidence of the person who was solely responsible for every bad thing that had ever happened to you in your life? This is basically what happens in every 100 Bullets story, with our revolving cast of people being given this briefcase and this opportunity. It's really awesome. The Authority, Volume 1, Relentless by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. Before you see this movie, see the comic book. The movie's going to probably suck because the movie's not supposed to be in the DC universe. There are ways that they might be able to adapt it into the DC universe, but honestly, I really doubt that they're going to realize the problems inherent. The Authority is a great book, and you should really read the Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch stuff, and you can go forwards and backwards with reading more Authorities, some written by Mark Millar, and backwards, what is it? Oh, it's Stormwatch, I think, is the series before the Authority. Stormwatch series. I haven't read all of those, but some of them are really great. I've heard really good things about it. Also, there's the Planetary series by Warren Ellis, which is awesome. Next up, we got Bone, Volume 1, Out from Boneville by Jeff Smith. Great. All ages and just really unique style. I mean, just so iconic, and I love the style. I almost bought all the action figures. Bone is highly recommended. Coward, Criminal, Volume 1 by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Great crime stuff. Awesome. And he loves crime stuff. If you get the individual issues, he's got all this backup material. It's probably in the trade paperbacks of him just talking about his love of crime things and crime films and stories and stuff and recommending different people. Anyway, great one. And Sean Phillips' art's awesome. Very gritty. Daredevil Guardian Devil is by Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. This will start you on a lifelong love of Daredevil. Begin here. I've talked about it before. Begin there with Kevin Smith and just continue on. You're going to have Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack and Ed Brubaker and Alex Maleev and Phil Winslade. Just so many brilliant creators, up till today. I think with my buddy Marco Cicchetto, me and Marco know each other. The first work I ever did at Marvel, I did with Marco. And Marco's like blowing up right now in a huge Daredevil run. And the Daredevil run before that was a huge run by Mark Waid. It's rare that Daredevil is not kicking ass as a creatively, solid publication for Marvel. And it really, like the renaissance of it, started with Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, the beginning of Marvel Knights. I'm a big fan of this era, and it leads into so many amazing stories for Daredevil. Like I said, I think there's only one stinker in like all of the runs that have ever come out of Daredevil since this run begins. So you'll be reading Daredevil for a long time if you like it. Next up, we got Preacher Volume 1, Gone to Texas. Much better than that Super TV series. I don't like the changes they made. I really love the series. It's really great. You should read it. One of my favorites of all time, Preacher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. Rest in peace. Next up, Sandman Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes. This is not exactly my favorite personally, but people love Sandman. It's by Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, Mike Dridgenberg, a lot of other artists and creative people. The storytelling with Neil Gaiman, he's just kind of like a magician who's like, I know I got something good here, so I'm just going to tell you like what I want to tell you. And you spend a lot of time kind of going like, what is he telling me? What is he telling me? And a lot of people like this. I like to just enjoy entertainment. Not have to like hustle, man. I'm like, dude, it's the end of the day. I've been working. I want to just enjoy this book. You're making it too hard on me. Anyway, Savage Dragon Volume 1 by Eric Larson. Oh my God, Savage Dragon Volume 1, and go read Savage Dragon. I recommend it wholly up until issue 75. Then after that, Eric took a whole bunch of advice he was giving to the medium of comics in his own comic really way too literally and changed the story that the readers had been following for a really long time in such a way that reading it became a slog in a lot of fashions. He got back on track somewhere along the way. I still read Savage Dragon when I get a chance, and if you're warned that after issue 75 it really goes off the rails for a second, but it's generally the most irreverent and nutty book that you will come across on the racks. It's really, really hilarious. The original book, I just thought consistently brought forward stakes and circumstances and things that were just like, even when it was like dark or horrific or whatever. It was just funny. It was just always very shocking. And I really, Eric Larson is a brilliant creator, and I love him, and I appreciate his contribution to the comic book medium. Holler at you, Eric. Also, we got The Sword, Volume 1, Fire by the Luna Brothers. Luna Brothers are amazing creators. They have a whole bunch of great books. There's another book called Girls, which is great by them. The Sword, Volume 1, Fire, kicks ass. Really, really interesting, cool, well laid out story. And I think there's at least like 5 graphic novels worth of stories there. I mean, it's like 30 issues or something. Really good. Also, we got Think Tank Volume 1 by Matt Hawkins and Rasan Ekladel. Think Tank, it was pretty neat, and it was like mad scientist book kind of thing. Right, to finish our list off, I've got another Garth Ennis book, but this time with John McCree and Carlos Esquerra. It's called Hitman Volume 1, A Rage in Arkham. Hitman is a bounty hunter, just a regular hitman, like a John Wick kind of character who lives in DC, in the DC universe. And his interactions with the DC universe are just classic and awesome. The series, the story of Johnny Monahan, I love that character. I tried to pitch DC on a series that would bring him back in a Task Force Y, where they reanimated all these people and had them as a hit squad. And it was because I love this character so much because of this series, and there's a ton of graphic novels you will enjoy going back, because I didn't read them when they came out either. I read them as the graphic novels, and I actually did read like the last 20 issues or something like that as they came out, but I caught up to this book, and it is just the best. Finally, we got Powers Volume 1, Who Killed Retro Girl by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming. I love Michael Avon Oeming. He is not only a great artist, he's a great writer. He's written some great stuff himself. He wrote a miniseries for Marvel about Ares that was so freaking good that when Marvel killed Ares shortly after this, I was horrified because of how good Michael Avon Oeming's Ares series that he wrote was. And he's a great artist, and him and Brian Michael Bendis, they have a long run of making them really great, super stylized, fun to read Powers comics. And it's basically just about these detectives who investigate superhero crime, and it's awesome. It goes to so many places and is very, very cool. Brian Michael Bendis, his independent stuff is generally gold. You might find it to be hit and miss in mainstream comics with some of the things that he's done. The things that he built his career on are great in the mainstream comics. And his independent stuff, I think, has remained really solid. So if you really want to, if you read any of these ones with Brian's name on them and you like him, oh man, especially the crime stuff. He did a ton of great black and white crime books when he was coming up as a comic book writer, and his books are great. I don't know if it was like him trying to pitch movies to studios, might have been on some level, because they were all movie-like, but they were really, really solid and well done, and he drew some of them. Books like Goldfish and Jinx, and I forget the other names of some of these books, but great stuff. Brian Michael Bendis really has a long catalog of books that I would highly recommend. All right, guys, I guess that's it. I mean, although maybe I should just say that recently, as I've gotten back into comics, there has been a couple things that have just been blowing my mind. And firstly, I'll say I quite enjoyed Absolute Batman, but more than that, Absolute Wonder Woman has been one of my favorite comics I've ever read. On the second trade paperback, highly recommend that one for the ladies out there, but I think it's fucking awesome for boys as well. It's just a kick-ass comic book. I'm reading it to my daughter as we speak. Completely alternate origin for Wonder Woman, where she's basically raised in hell by her arch enemy in the comic book, Cersei. It's just, I mean, really beyond my wildest dreams. I'm enjoying the hell out of that one. And also, Jim Zub has a Conan series that's been going for a while now. I'm about to start the 4th trade paperback of that. Quite love that. The artwork's great. The story's been great. Always wanted to get into Conan. This is a great way for you guys to get into Conan with, I've actually read some old school Conan, and I like the old school Conan plenty. And Jim Zub's thing is really an homage to it. So I won't necessarily say that like it's needed, that this is like a newer, fresh version of Conan, but a good place to start for people who are just modern fans. If you're already reading anything, but Jim Zub's Conan's excellent. And then I will recommend, even though I haven't gotten deeply into them, but the Ghost Machine comic books. that Jeff Johns is producing with his company. Some excellent stuff over there. A lot of them I've only read like previews and stuff, but the main characters, Rook and I'm forgetting the skull guy who's on fire or whatever. But Ghost Machine in general, that whole company is being overseen by one of my favorite writers of all time, Jeff Johns. Peter J. Tomasi's over there with him. Some incredible artists are with him. I highly recommend that company and those books. But even more than that, I've been really just gassed up and excited about the Energon universe being produced by Robert Kirkman. I always wanted to get into Transformers because I have a lot of friends that are into Transformers, and I always wanted to get into G.I. Joe because I have a lot of friends who are into that. But I'm a toy guy, but G.I. Joe was a different scale until recently. Now they do 6-inch scale. Transformers, they still don't have them in I need an Optimus Prime where Spider-Man can ride in his chassis. That's what I'm looking for anyway. But I have super gotten into Transformers and super gotten into G.I. Joe through the Energon universe's G.I. Joe comic books and Transformers comic books, and also Robert Kirkman's original that lives in the universe, Void Rivals, which is awesome. I've read 4 of the trade paperbacks, the first 4 for Transformers. I've read, I guess, the first 5 for G.I. Joe, or I should say I read Duke and I read Cobra Commander, and then I got into the G.I. Joe proper series, and it's excellent, written by Joshua Williamson. If G.I. Joe Army, shit is something that you've ever wanted to get into, it's excellent. And the Transformers in particular is really great. The first book's written by Daniel Warren Johnson, and or the first 4 chapters of graphic novel chapters are all by Daniel Warren Johnson, who's really talented, excellent writer, artist, and he's in very rarefied air. The amount of artists who are also just as kick-ass at writing as they are art is small, but he's one of them. Like an Eric Larson. I got into him with his Beta Ray Bill miniseries that he did for Marvel recently, and that was excellent. An excellent miniseries drawn and written by him. There's a bunch of fun things that you can find by Daniel Warren Johnson. I would recommend him as another great creator that could easily get you into some comic books. But his Transformers was excellent, and I'm about to segue into the Robert Kirkman written Transformers stuff, and I'm excited about that because obviously Kirkman's a fan, and he's generally speaking. 90% of anything I've ever read from him is pretty great. And the universe that he's producing with Void Rivals, now they're adding Mask to it, which I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be reading Mask, even though I liked those toys when I was a kid. But Mask is being added on top of the Transformers and the G.I. Joe and the Void Rivals. But yeah, I have really just enjoyed the hell out of the Energon universe. So just a couple more recent books that have been excellent and worth your time. But I don't know, I think I probably gave you plenty, but those are the things that I have been personally enjoying at this moment the most. I think I'm getting Daniel Warren Johnson's Murder Falcon as well. That's on my list. Tons of Ed Brubaker shit on my list to read. There's always wonderful comic books out there, especially if you just follow the creators, because the creators never stop working on something. I'm a creator. I've been working on things from company to company to company. If you follow along, you could follow. If you followed along with my career, you'd find me writing something. Even actually, sometimes though, you wouldn't necessarily hear about something that I worked on. But I've always essentially been working on something, whether it's independent or for a company, some internet-based company or some anime type company, or you're always working for different people. But what I'm saying is, you never stop doing what you're doing. So when you do find a creative person that you like, you just, stay up on the Google with them and just keep going. What are they doing? What are they up to? I want to check it out. That's what I do with all the creators I like Jeff Johns and his Ghost Machine company. That's why I'm there. I love Jeff Johns. I want to see what he's doing. Joe Quesada, who we talked about, he's got a great new company called Amazing Comics. I just read the preview for his book the other day. I forget what the book's title is, but I ran into him at the New York was it the New York Toy Show or Comic-Con? Whatever. Recently, I ran into him, and he handed me a preview of his book, and it was excellent. And there's just always greatness in comic books if you're willing to get into the weeds a little bit and figure it out for yourself. Go on Kickstarter, go on what is it, Indiegogo, and all these fundraising sites. There's always some cool comic books being fundraised by various independent creative people who you've probably never heard of, but I'm sure a ton of them have crazy talent and deserve your attention. And most of them aren't getting the attention they deserve, as tends to be the case, because this industry, it's not built to support the people who deserve it the most. It tends to support the people who are the most or I should say the best salesmen of themselves and the most enterprising and the most pushy and a whole bunch of other qualities that are not necessarily just talent at creating ideas and writing stories and making comic books. You need a lot more than that to make it through. But if you as an audience member are willing to work a little harder, you can find so many wonderful things. And then you could be somebody like me who goes out into the world and shares all the wonderful things that you find with other people because you're like, oh my God, this is so good. This deserves people's time. You can always reach me at jbs@blacklightdistrict.studio. And of course, blacklightdistrict.studio is another place to go for some great fucking comics. Fucking for Our Future, King of Kings, books that we did fundraisers for on the internet. They're awesome. They're available for free for you to check out. Also, the Mythic Legions comic that we made for Four Horsemen Studios, that's free on the website. Everything that my company's ever produced, including the comic book album that started this company, Blacklight District's 6 issues that came out from Image Comics in 2016. That's available free. Go listen for free to all of the different music. We have so much great music on the website. You know, I mean, really just a dozen of the best albums that you've never heard of before, and you can go listen to them for free. And then also, come July 4th, we are, that weekend, I'm launching a subscription service through the website to subscribe to my music that I'm releasing. I've been making a lot of music in these advanced healing frequencies. I've made like 6 different albums that I'm just sitting on, and they're going to be releasing a song a week through the website. Eventually, they'll all be free on the website, you know, so 6 months from now, the songs that other people are going to be able to listen to if they subscribe, you'll be able to hear for free. But if you want to help support great music, indie comics, and everything that I'm doing, go to blacklightdistrict.studio and sign up for the yearly subscription. It's $52 for the year. I think it's like $7 if you want to pay per month. But it's a song every week and a post every week with the lyrics, just kind of talking about the meaning of all this stuff. And then there's, it's called like the Roadies package, but then there's like a Roadies all access thing where you have access to download any of the music on the website for free. You could participate in the monthly jam session and monthly kind of like doing like a class on alternating between like music and comics. I'm kind of just going to be like doing some classes on various fields of the entertainment industry that I'm in for the people who are on this advanced package. I think it's like $99 for the year. But if you do not the monthly thing, if you do this monthly $7 a month, you don't get this. But if you do either the $99 a year or the $52 for just the song every week, and you pay ahead of time for the year, you get a free copy of We're Not Gonna Take It, We're Gonna Make It, which is a really cool mashup I did of my father's hit song, We're Not Gonna Take It, with another one of his songs that was a little bit of a hit in Great Britain, one of my favorite songs from him, We're Gonna Make It. And it's a really, really great mashup, really, really fun. And we're giving that away for free for anybody who signs up for the year. So go to blacklightdistrict.studio, read a dozen free comic books over there, and then hundreds of great songs over there, and with more and more to come, whether you sign up for the site or not. And our site is built for community creativity and entertainment. I'm actually going to test this or next week with my bass player to go into one of the rooms to play together so we can work on stuff, because the I don't know how you say this, like the discrepancy between the sound, even if you're like across the country, It's supposed to be very, very small so that you can actually work on music with people in our chat rooms. The whole thing, we have looping systems and a whole bunch of stuff, like the jam that we're going to be doing every month will be me coming on and, like, sharing some melodies that I've written and playing around with the jam thing and just having a great time. So, and there's lots of cool offers and things that you're going to be able to get to if you go to the website, including eventually on the website. I haven't done this yet. This is a little bit me being far behind, but I'm going to be translating every recommendation that I've made on this podcast, whether it's in comics, music, TV, film, anything that we've talked about loving. It's going to end up on the website in just list forms, so when you're like, I want a good comedy and I trust Jesse's recommendations, and granted, it's going to grow beyond my recommendations soon enough, but you can go to the website, you can find, here's the grimoire for the grimoire, I forgot how to pronounce that word, for all of the great comedy that I've ever seen. I'm going to have it in one place so that I can share with everybody that I love, and we can help build this monoculture. We're going to be having like our own podcast network. I've got my show, Everything They Don't Want You to Know, which is going to be going like exclusive to the website, I think, pretty soon, and doing a whole bunch of different shows with some friends of mine who want to do some podcasts that are all in like a spiritual place. So we're going to have a lot of really cool resources for you, whether it's recommendations or things that'll be teaching, and it's cool. This is just the beginning of it, and I'm really proud of it. I love what we do, making music and making comics, but even the community aspect of what we're doing, just like the I don't know shit about comics, just trying to grow this world of people with like minds who enjoy the same stuff. So we're talking the same language and building the better world that we want to see. Anyway, I'm trying to do that. If you do like conspiracy conversation and esoteric wisdom like hermetic principles and universal laws and aliens and shit like that, you can check out my show every Monday, Everything They Don't Want You to Know. It's an awesome show that's going to be sort of leading the suite of shows on our little podcast network through Blacklight District Studio pretty soon. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But is there anything else I've talked about? I gave you my email. I sent you to the website. I sent you to Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Oh, and I guess I'll just say one last thing. I have a wonderful friend, Asmith, who owns a company called Science Under Nature. They are like our first kind of direct advertisers with Everything They Don't Want You to Know mostly, but I'm going to bring it up over here. Things like methylene blue and CBD and shilajit and stuff that really good natural supplements for your body for various things. They have really great high quality stuff, and I become a little bit of a salesperson for them with everybody that I meet, because lots of stuff that I get from them now, I used to not exactly know where to get it sourced right and make sure that it was great. It's hard to trust so many of these companies, especially once they get bought by these corporations that have no interest in really fucking healing us anyway. But for the life of this company, Asmith is never going to give up this company, and he's always going to be doing it and overseeing it. And I just trust him so much and love him so much. And their website, Science Under Nature, you can check that out. And if you go over there and you want to make any order and you use code SUN, SUN, Blaze, BLAZE, that's the code for me. And I'll make a little bit of money off of your sale, and they'll make money, and you'll save 15% off your order. So you'll save money, I'll make a little bit of money, they'll make some money, everybody's happy. Asmith's company is awesome, totally deserving your time. That's scienceundernature.com. And 15% with the code SUNBLAZE. You should use that. Anyway, this is me, Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest man alive, the coolest geek alive, and you've been listening to The Coolest Alive. I love you so much. I appreciate you listening to the show, and I hope you will join me again next Saturday for another fucking awesome episode of The Coolest Alive. Love you guys. Care Bear Stare. See you later. You've been listening to Coolest Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent entertainment recommendations. Thanks for listening.
It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's insane. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah! awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I've got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I play that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living your shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top of the awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go.
It's going to be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!